Hey guys, and welcome to another video. I know Easter has long since passed, but I still wanted to give you guys this video since I'm only making these a second time because I was commissioned to make them. Also, you probably know that Royal High YouTube has been struggling with views and subscribers recently, so liking, commenting, sharing and all that will be greatly appreciated. With that said, time to show you the process. The first thing you'd want to do is make a pattern for the ears and also create a smaller version of that pattern. Once you have the patterns made, you want to trace the big one onto some folded fabric. So right now I'm cutting out 2 pieces of fabric. And then you want to do that a second time. And also leave seam allowance, don't forget your seam allowance. And then you just want to repeat the same thing for your smaller pattern with your other colour fabric. Now, I don't believe I've done this in any of my previous videos, but what I'm doing right now with the pink fabric is I'm tacking the fabric in place. Since I'm appliquing these on, I need to kind of tuck the seam allowance in, and instead of pinning it, I'm instead holding the fabric in place with thread that I will take out later. After the fabric has been tacked in place, I'm laying it on top of the white fabric and just pinning that down, ready to go under the sewing machine. When sewing, I made sure to keep it very close to the edge of the pink fabric, of course because I've tacked the seams in, it'll all look very neat and tidy. And after it's been sewn in place, I can just remove the tacking. Then I just gave all of the pieces a little iron before I started pinning lace ruffles to them. Then came the tedious process of pinning the lace ruffles down. Not much to say about this. You've probably seen it in countless of my other videos. But yeah. Pinning lace down. When it came to the second ear, I made sure that I pinned them in the exact same places and had all the ruffles the exact same size as well, which took a little while to do. Once all the ruffles were pinned in place, I decided to tack them down just so I could take all of the pins out, because as you can see there's a ton of pins in there, and tacking it down would just make the next step very much easier. That next step actually being putting on the back of the ear, so I'm laying down the back of the ear on top of the front and just pinning that in place, ready to put that under the sewing machine. And of course when sewing it, I was making sure that the thread was catching the edge of the lace so that the lace would be held in place. Goodbye tacking. And hello bunny ear shaped wadding that I'm going to put inside of the bunny ears. After the wadding was put in, I decided that the bunny ears needed a bit more structure, so I used some wire to make kind of a frame for the ears. Once the wire was put in, I kind of bent it in this pattern so that it'd be easy to glue onto the headband. When putting the glue on, I made sure that none of the glue went onto the fabric and it only went onto the wires before, of course, gluing that into the spot that I wanted it to be in. After the wire was glued down, it was time to make the fabric look pretty by, of course, tucking in any ends on the lace and then wrestling the headband to do a blanket stitch underneath it with, of course, both the front and back parts of the bunny ears. Then I made sure to sew down the raw edge that the pink had on the bottom of it. The ears themselves were basically done. It was time to move on to the bows. So I just cut out a rectangle and tried to kind of work out how to make a bow. I decided to kind of cut into it a little bit and made it a bit more like a pasta shape. I then cut out this shape 4 times in the pink fabric. And I pinned lace ruffles to 2 of them. And I tacked the ruffles in place so that sewing the 2 front and back pieces together would be easier. Now I decided to hand sew the front and back together just because I couldn't quite be bothered to get the sewing machine back on my desk. So yeah, it's optional if you want to machine sew this or hand sew it. I left a small hole so that I could turn it inside out. And you should end up with something that slightly resembles Sylvanian family's bedding. I cut out 2 rectangles and folded them and pinned them in place. These are going to go in the middle of the bows. I folded the bows to give them that kind of like cartoony bow look, and then decided to sew it together before I added the rectangle tube thingy. Unfortunately, this footage is not flawless and you can barely see what I'm doing, but I'm wrapping the rectangle tube thing around the bow and then attempting to try and neatly sew it in place. I'm so bad. The last thing to do was, of course, sew the bow onto the ear. This was kind of hard to do, but I managed to do it. And that is basically the headband finished. This can't be an IRL video without my cat being somewhere in the way. So, here's the cat for the people who absolutely adore her. These ears came out so much better compared to the ears that I made last year. I adore the bows on them. Unfortunately, I can't keep this pair because these are going to OceanOrbs, and there is more cat. Let me know what you thought of them by commenting, and if you liked them then please like the video. Speaking of you guys, I'm gonna start featuring your fan art at the end of my videos. If you'd like to submit some fan art, then please join my Discord server, which will be linked in the description. If you don't have Discord, then send it to any of my social medias, which are also in the description. But yeah, hope you enjoyed seeing this type of video again, and thank you for watching.